9,000 years ago, before the pyramids, before Stonehenge, before the wheel, someone built a city. A city with no streets, no doors at ground level. To come home, you crossed your neighbor's rooftops. Beneath the floor where you slept lay your dead. Not one or two. In some houses, more than 60. And for nearly 2,000 years, thousands of people lived here, with no ruler archaeologists can find. No king, no palace, no throne. This is Çatalhöyük, and it breaks every rule civilization was supposed to follow. Across the Near East, farming had begun to reshape human life. Göbekli Tepe's pillars already stood. But around 7100 BC, on the Konya plain of Anatolia, something rose that had no precedent. A settlement of perhaps 8,000 people, so vast and strange that many call it the world's first city. The houses were built wall against wall. No gaps, no alleys, no passages. The city was one continuous building. Life happened on the roofs. People crossed the city over each other's homes, working, trading, raising children. You entered your home through a hatch in the roof, climbing down a wooden ladder into the warm dark below. The only light fell through the smoke hole. The air was hearth fire, fresh plaster, and baking bread. The fires rarely went out. Smoke hung so thick indoors that the air itself may have slowly poisoned them. Families renewed their walls again and again. Some houses preserve hundreds of thin layers of pale plaster. And here is the strangest part. House after excavated house, they follow remarkably similar plans. 25 square meters. A hearth, an oven, storage bins, sleeping platforms. No mansions, no slums. Decades of digging have found no palace, no separate temple, no chief's residence, no central grain store. In the cities that came later, power rose into palaces, temples, and elites. Here, that never clearly appeared. The balance even crossed gender. Skeletons suggest men and women ate alike and lived broadly similar lives. Whatever differences existed, there is little sign here of the rigid gender hierarchy of later societies. Thousands of people, century after century. No ruler anyone can find. How did that even work? The answer, perhaps, is painted on the walls. Across the settlement, house after house preserves traces of art, sometimes layer upon layer of it. Bull skulls with massive horns jut from the walls. Leopards face each other in red. Vultures spread their wings. Some scholars believe the art itself held the city together, not law enforced by a king, meaning shared by all. Ritual may have done what laws and rulers did elsewhere, renewing the bonds that held the city together. But among the bulls and leopards, one image returns again and again. Vultures descending on headless bodies. For decades, the world believed these paintings showed exactly what happened to the dead of this city. James Mellaart, the man who made this site famous, saw sky burial here, bodies laid out, picked clean by birds. The oldest sky burial on Earth. That was the story. Modern science tells a more complicated one. Most skeletons show no trace of exposure. The bodies went into the earth whole, curled tight like sleepers. The vultures may not record what happened to the body, but what people believed happened to the soul. Because the dead of Çatalhöyük never left home. They were buried inside the house, beneath the floors. Under the very platforms where the living slept, the generations gathered, one above the other. Picture a woman in one of these houses, sweeping the white plaster floor she has swept all her life. She knows what lies beneath it. Her grandmother under the north platform, her mother beside her. One day her children will lower her through this same floor, seal it smooth, and sleep above her. One building held 62 burials. Generation after generation, meals there were eaten above the dead. And sometimes the dead came back. Skulls were lifted from old graves generations after burial. At least one skull was coated in plaster and painted with red ochre, given a human face again after death. One woman was buried cradling that painted skull in her arms, the face of someone who died before her. Then ancient DNA revealed the households changed over time. Early burials often lay beside close blood kin, but maternal lines endured. Daughters, more often than sons, stayed connected to their mother's house. In later centuries, those blood ties loosened, and households grew around bonds social rather than genetic. One material tied Çatalhöyük to a far wider world: obsidian. Volcanic glass, the sharpest edge on Earth. It came from volcanic uplands far across the plain, and the city became a key node in its movement. Its blades moved along networks stretching hundreds of miles, south toward the Levant, west toward the sea. Back came seashells from far coasts, timber from the Taurus Mountains, colored stone for beads. These valuables turn up all across the city, and nowhere is there a storehouse where they pooled at the top. Among the finest objects were obsidian mirrors, polished so finely they still throw back a face today. And when the city feasted, it feasted together. The prey of honor was the aurochs, a wild bull of a ton. A single animal could feed many households at once, a feast far larger than any one family could claim. The horns went up on the walls, trophies not of one hunter, but of a feast many households remembered. Feasts like these may have spread meat, prestige, and obligation, making it hard to stand above the rest. And one wall painting may show the mountain that loomed over their world, a twin-peaked form erupting. Some call it the oldest map on Earth, the volcano Hasan Dağ looming above the city's rooftops. But others see something else entirely. Not a volcano at all, but the stretched skin of a leopard. A map or a pelt. After 9,000 years, the painting keeps its secret. Çatalhöyük endured for nearly 2,000 years, longer than most kingdoms and empires that followed. 100 generations were born, crossed the rooftops, and were folded back beneath the floors. Then, after about 6,000 BC, life on the Great Mound changed. The dense settlement began to disperse. A drying climate, shifting wetlands, and new villages rising across the plain may all have played a part. Or maybe, after 2,000 years, the great experiment of Çatalhöyük had simply run its course. Imagine one of the last families climbing the ladder a final time, heirs of the woman who swept these floors. They crossed the rooftops their ancestors built, walked down onto the plain, and settled in smaller places beyond. The plain swallowed the city. For millennia, it was only a mound under grass, a höyük, grazed by cattle. Then, in 1958, a British archaeological team brought the mound to light. Among them was a young James Mellaart. His digs in the 60s stunned the world. A city this old and this strange was not supposed to exist. But Mellaart was a storyteller as much as a scientist, and some of his stories went too far. He built a theory of a mother goddess cult around one clay figure, a heavy-seated woman flanked by leopards. Later, he was accused of fabricating finds and tangled in antiquities scandals. Turkey barred him from digging. The man who revealed Çatalhöyük may also have distorted it. Untangling the two took decades. Beginning in 1993, Ian Hodder's teams re-excavated the site with DNA, isotopes, and microscopes. Under scrutiny, the goddess faded. The figurines proved varied. Women, men, animals, no single cult explains. The diet proved richer than Mellaart imagined. Farming mattered, but so did hunting, fishing, and gathering. Wheat, barley, peas, and lentils fed the city, beside wild cattle, boar, fish, birds, and wetland plants. This was no city detached from the wild. It lived from fields, herds, marshes, and hunting grounds at once. Even the equality was more human than perfect. Some houses held more burials, richer art, finer obsidian. Ian Hodder calls them history houses, quietly important, yet never developing into anything like palaces. Equality here may not have been automatic. It had to be remade house by house, generation after generation. And that may be the deepest lesson here. Hierarchy was never the only possible path to settled life. For centuries, thousands sustained a dense city without palaces, without royal tombs, without a dynasty. The cities that followed raised temples, palaces, and thrones. This one preserved a very different beginning. Today, the site is a UNESCO World Heritage Mound, and most of it has never been excavated at all. Thousands of houses still wait below, floors untouched for 90 centuries, walls still carrying paint. Each one holds the same question. Is hierarchy the price of civilization, or a habit we could unlearn? If cities that shouldn't exist fascinate you, subscribe to Echoes of Antiquity. New journeys every week. Because civilization didn't begin the way we thought. And maybe it doesn't have to continue that way.